Good morning, you are watching A News. I'm Bakhtiar Asanov, and let's see the headlines. Ukraine has agreed the terms of a minerals deal with the United States, senior officials say. Trump confirms Zelensky visit to Washington. Power outage in Chile leaves millions without electricity. President announces a state of emergency and a curfew. Pope Francis remains in critical but stable condition as thousands pray for Pontiff's recovery. The United States and Ukraine have reached a draft agreement granting Washington access to Kiev's vast rare earth minerals. It's an economic boost for Ukraine, but one that comes with geopolitical stakes. The deal coincides with President Trump's push for a swift resolution to the war, raising concerns over potential concessions to Moscow.
The US and Ukraine have agreed on the terms of a draft minerals deal, according to top officials in Kiev and Washington. It's central to Ukraine's push to win US support as President Donald Trump seeks to rapidly end the war with Russia. The agreement marks a significant development in US-Ukraine relations. According to sources, the minerals deal would grant the United States access to Ukraine's vast reserves of rare earth minerals, critical for industries ranging from semiconductors to defense. President Trump says Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will visit Washington later this week, where the deal is expected to be finalized.
I hear that. I hear that he's coming on Friday. Certainly, it's okay with me if he'd like to. And he would like to sign it together with me. And I understand that's a big deal, very big deal.
Ukraine holds some of Europe's largest deposits of minerals, including lithium, titanium, and zirconium resources that have only gained strategic importance as global tensions over supply chains have intensified. This deal is being framed as a win-win, an economic boost for Kiev, and a way for Washington to curb its dependence on China.
Trump wants rare earths because the American economy is highly dependent on Chinese sources, and it's an economic and national security risk. So, reason number one. Reason number two is that there are now so many American companies who are able to mine and produce rare earths within the US. Reason number two. And reason number three is that, there is Ukraine, and we have these commodities right there. And in order to avoid that the Chinese will take over Ukrainian rare earths commodities and build up potential mines there, it's an option for the Americans. And reason number four is to make the Ukrainians pay for the American military support.
Trump's push for a deal also signals a potential shift in how the US views its support for Kiev. Some experts believe that Washington is looking for ways to make Ukraine financially justify the military aid it has received. While the minerals deal is being framed as an economic opportunity, analysts warn it carries significant strategic implications. Trump's desire to rapidly end the war could mean Ukraine is pressured into economic or territorial compromises that could shift the balance of power in the region. One major concern is that many of Ukraine's rare earth reserves lie in Russian-occupied territories, making any future mining operations subject to negotiation with Moscow. In regions like Luhansk and Donetsk, where fighting has been ongoing since 2014, resource extraction would be complicated by security risks and geopolitical tensions.
Because even though the global rare earth supply continues to be relatively stable, with a few exceptions, rare earth elements, because of their strategic significance, do unfortunately tend to feature in broader geopolitical disputes. And so the elements that are under question with respect to Ukraine are currently located in areas that are Russia-controlled.
For Ukraine, securing US investment in critical minerals could strengthen its economic position. But as Trump accelerates efforts to negotiate an end to the war, concerns are growing that Kiev may be forced into concessions that could reshape the security landscape in Europe, potentially leaving Ukraine dependent on the very powers it has sought to distance itself from. Zelensky's visit to Washington later this week may provide clearer answers, but for now, the future of US-Ukraine relations remains uncertain.
Russia confirms its readiness to develop its vast rare earth metal reserves and proposed a deal with the United States for joint exploration. President Vladimir Putin also suggests opening the American market to Russian aluminum, signaling potential economic cooperation. Rare earth metals are critical for technology and defense industries, and Russia holds the world's fifth largest reserves. The Kremlin says the United States relies on these resources and hinted at possible agreements. In the United States, confusion is mounting over Elon Musk's directive requiring federal employees to justify their roles or face potential termination. After the deadline for staff to respond to his email had passed, Musk said that government workers had been given, quote, another chance to respond. However, the original request had been entirely voluntary. Federal workers faced fresh uncertainty about their futures. It's after Elon Musk gave them, quote, another chance to respond to his ultimatum that they justify their jobs or risk termination. The move contradicts guidance from some Trump administration officials that their request was voluntary. On Tuesday, 21 employees of the Department of Government Efficiency resigned over ethical concerns regarding Elon Musk's directives. In their letter, they refused to aid in what they say is, quote, dismantling critical public services or compromising sensitive data. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt echoed Musk's ultimatum.
All this administration is asking, President Trump is asking, is for federal workers who live off of the American taxpayer's dime to send 5 bullet points of what they have done in the previous week.
This is the latest test of how much power Musk wields within DOGE, which is an entity created by Trump to cut government spending. So far, Musk's initiative has led to the layoffs of more than 20,000 workers. Union leaders protested outside the Office of Health and Human Services in Washington, D.C. in response to cuts in healthcare and research.
From outbreaks of viruses and forest fires, these are the people who put themselves at risk to protect the rest of us. And that's who Trump and Musk and a bunch of kids without any real-world knowledge and experience are trying to get rid of.
DOGE hasn't yet commented on the resignations. Altogether, there are 2.3 million civilian government workers. Musk is set to attend Trump's cabinet meeting on Wednesday. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Saudi Defense Minister Prince Khalid bin Salman at the State Department in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday, following the minister's visit to the Pentagon the day before. On Monday, Prince Khalid bin Salman met with U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth discussing regional and international security. The visit comes as Saudi Arabia plays a key role in global diplomacy, recently hosting U.S. and Russian officials to discuss the war in Ukraine and efforts to restore ties between the two countries. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov visited Tehran for talks with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. The one-day trip comes amidst growing tensions between Iran and the United States. The visit occurred just a day after the U.S. imposed new sanctions targeting Iran's oil sector. However, Lavrov expressed confidence that diplomatic solutions to Iran's nuclear ambitions were still possible. Earlier, Lavrov also met with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi to discuss regional and bilateral issues. Moscow and Tehran have increasingly strengthened defense ties in the past years, especially since the start of the Ukraine war in 2022. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said he would increase defense spending to 2.5% of GDP by 2027, rising to 3% after 2029. Ahead of his visit to Washington, Starmer told Parliament he was bringing the increase in defense spending forward to offer Europe more support in a, quote, new era as the United States is engaging in peace talks with Russia over the war in Ukraine. Calling the planned increase the biggest since the end of the Cold War, Starmer said it would mean a cut to international aid spending.
In the short term, it can only be funded through hard choices. And in this case, that means we will cut our spending on development assistance, moving from 0.5% of GNI today to 0.3% in 2027, fully funding our increased investment in defence. I want to be clear to the House. That is not an announcement I am happy to make.
In Germany, election winner and leader of the Conservatives, Friedrich Merz, has ruled out a quick reform to the country's state borrowing limits, known as the debt brake. He says it's too soon to say whether the outgoing parliament could wave through a massive military spending boost. The outgoing government says it's setting up a €100 billion fund to increase defense spending. Political parties are calling for a fund to overhaul the country's military. This year's Rose Monday parade in Germany's Cologne and Mainz will take a satirical look at current political events. Floats will feature US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, among many. Around 600,000 people are set to enjoy the day on March the 3rd.
The cities of Cologne and Mainz are rapidly preparing for the Rose Monday parade for the 3rd of March in Germany. It's one of the largest and most traditional events in the cities. 17 floats will showcase US and Russian leaders, as well as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky and Germany's far-right AfD leader Alice Weidel, as well as others. Organisers expect around 600,000 people to gather to watch on the 5-kilometre route on Monday.
So what can we expect this year? Of course, there is the big issue of world politics with an American president who is disregarding all the rules that were previously considered state-of-the-art, from environmental protection to the new peace order, which according to his ideas is actually a Wild West approach. From this American president, we then switch to the Russian aggressor Putin, who is simply on a war path here and repeatedly finds vassals to support him. But also the political situation in Europe with the challenges of the economy, inflation, unemployment, migration throughout Europe.
The first Rose Monday parade took place in 1838, 180 years ago. Thousands of police officers will ensure security.
Trade unionists and green campaigners staged a protest in Brussels against the European Commission's plans that they claim are driving Europe towards deregulation that will weaken workers' rights and environmental protections.
Activists from various environmental and workers' rights groups gathered outside the European Commission headquarters in Brussels just one day before the EU's expected announcement regarding the Clean Industrial Deal. A draft document from the European Commission reveals that the EU plans to ease state aid regulations, reduce risks for power purchase agreements, and relax rules on winter gas storage. These changes aim to lower costs for energy-intensive industries, making them more competitive.
The workers are not an obstacle. Workers' rights and workers' protections are not an obstacle to competitiveness. It's an asset for business. It's the way to do fair competitions, to set fair competitions rules in Europe. And this is what we're asking the Commission. Be fair and set fair competition rules where workers' rights and workers' protections are respected, where the human rights are respected. This is your task, this is your obligation, this is your duty.
The Clean Industrial Deal is a central component of European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen's strategy to address Europe's industrial decline. The Commission will present the deal during a meeting with industry representatives in Antwerp on Wednesday as part of a broader plan to boost competitiveness in the coming years.
Some 300 representatives from over 150 countries gathered in Rome for a second attempt to figure out how to generate $200 billion annually to stop nature loss by 2030. The United Nations Biodiversity Conference resumed in Italy on Monday after the COP16 talks in Colombia in November last year were suspended without resolving a heated dispute between rich and developing countries over how to work together to raise the money needed to halt the destruction of nature. The talks will conclude on Thursday. A state of emergency and overnight curfew have been declared in Chile. It's after a massive power outage swept across the country on Tuesday. Authorities say the outage was caused by a transmission line failure.
99% of Chile was in darkness on Tuesday. Millions of people were left struggling without electricity, internet or mobile services. The country's grid operator reported a high-voltage transmission disruption that crippled the power network during a severe heat wave. However, the exact cause of the failure remains unclear. The blackout extended from Arica in the north to Los Lagos in the south, paralysing daily life across 14 of the 16 regions. The world's largest copper producer was forced to suspend mining operations, while water shortages worsened as electric-powered pumps ceased to function. Public transport in Santiago came to a standstill, with the metro system completely shut down and buses overwhelmed. Traffic lights failed, causing widespread congestion and stranding thousands of commuters for hours.
There is nothing. Cash, money, metro, nothing. Now, we were having lunch and the light went off.
We usually take about 35 minutes to get home, but we've been waiting for the bus for about 5 hours, and we've been sitting here for more than 3 hours because it's full. The buses are full, they don't want to stop.
Authorities confirm that emergency generators were activated to keep hospitals, government offices and prisons operational. However, no emergency situations have been reported. The Interior Minister clarified that the outage was caused by a transmission line failure in the north, ruling out the possibility of a cyber attack. Officials say that power has been restored to half of the 8 million homes affected by the outage on Tuesday night. The government has imposed an overnight curfew until 6 a.m. Wednesday to ensure public safety and aid recovery efforts. Chilean authorities are intensifying investigations while continuing efforts to restore full power across the country.
As Pope Francis continues to battle serious health issues, prayers from across the globe are pouring in for his recovery. From Argentina to the Vatican, faithful are uniting in hope for his healing.
Pope Francis remains in critical condition for the fourth consecutive day, currently battling double pneumonia, prompting an outpouring of prayers from across the globe. He's received a special amount of love and prayers from the Argentinian community, as the country holds a deep connection to him.
Well, he is a great leader. He is a great leader, without a doubt. I think that not only for Catholics, but he is a great political leader as well. I think that both believers and atheists or agnostics, I think that at least they respect him a lot and listen to him. I think he is a great leader, Pope Francis, and a great man of God as well, of course.
Pope Francis, born in Buenos Aires, became the first pope from the Southern Hemisphere and the first non-European pope in nearly 1,300 years when he was elected in 2013. His focus on mercy and support for the underprivileged has earned him respect and admiration globally. At the Vatican, Cardinal Luis Tagle led prayers in St. Peter's Square with hundreds of pilgrims from countries as far away as Brazil and the United States joining in solidarity. Ave Maria. Devotees have gathered to express their deep affection for the Pope's legacy of compassion.
I'm feeling that the whole world is praying for Pope Francis, and he's really been a great witness to the world. I think of the mercy of God, his way of showing that this is the core. This is really what Christianity is about: mercy and love.
Benedetta fra le donne, e benedetto è il frutto del tuo seno, Gesù.
I'm very emotional. This evening I'm here to pray for Pope Francis with some Italian-American friends, with so much gratitude for this Pope, for the gift of a bright pontificate that has put at the centre, as we know, mercy, which means embracing the last, the poor, as the Lord taught us.
Despite the grave situation, the latest health update from the Vatican assures that Pope Francis's condition remains stable, though his prognosis is still guarded. Doctors are monitoring his condition closely, and the pontiff continues his treatment at Rome's hospital, where he's now spent 12 days. It's his longest hospital stay during his papacy.
The future of artificial intelligence has been the focus of tech entrepreneurs and financial backers who gathered in Doha for the second annual Web Summit hosted by Qatar.
The 4-day 2025 Web Summit, opened in Doha, Qatar, features thousands of political, economic, and technological figures from around 90 countries and regions worldwide. Expecting to have 25,000 attendees, many renowned scholars, entrepreneurs, and technical experts are scheduled to deliver important speeches at the event as it explores the latest trends in global technological development with wider topics, including artificial intelligence, new energy, cybersecurity, and venture capital. AI, in particular, has emerged as a central focus of this year's summit.
Qatar is trying to diversify away from oil and gas and try to build a knowledge-based economy. And this Web Summit, by having all these startups, all these innovative ideas, will accelerate this process.
The organizer aims to build a diverse innovation ecosystem with the help of this summit to promote technological innovation and economic transformation in the Middle East and North Africa region and eliminate the global digital division.
Some nursing homes in China have begun the use of robotic dogs as companions for its residents. Alongside helping tackle loneliness, they also accompany the residents on walks and deliver medicine to them.
These robotic dogs, which are smaller than industrial-grade heavy robotic dogs, are equipped with high-precision radar and cameras that enable autonomous route planning and obstacle avoidance. Many senior citizens express that the dogs have brought joy and warmth to their everyday lives.
It's so much fun. I've already played with it several times. What elderly people fear most is loneliness. This cutting-edge technology is fantastic, and it offers companionship to seniors like us.
A senior employee at the company behind the manufacture of the companion dogs further explained their importance to elderly care.
This represents our 4th-generation robotic dog product, currently deployed at the Golden Autumn Elderly Care Home to provide meal delivery and companionship services. Equipped with autonomous path planning, navigation, and localization capabilities, it integrates with the community meal delivery systems.
The dogs are also equipped to memorize residents' biometric facial features or voice patterns to assist with memory support and medication reminders. This recent rollout of robotic dogs in elderly care homes are part of local efforts to explore smart elderly care solutions and are currently being expanded to include disability assistance programs.
That's all for now. Thank you for joining us and keep watching A News.